This is David with High Performance Stoicism. I want to talk to you about what courage is. We all know that the Stoics think that courage is a virtue and a very important one, and that it would be great to have courage. But what do they really believe about courage? What is it? Fortunately, the Stoics have a lot to say about virtue in general and a lot to say about courage in particular. And I'm going to start off with a couple of quotes from Arius Didymus. So the first quote has to do with what is the subject of courage? Here's the quote. Courage deals with acts of endurance. End quote. So that means anytime that endurance is called for, you want to draw upon your courage. Now, an important note here for most people, since few people, if any, are truly courageous, that doesn't leave us out of being able to use courage because we have the seed of courage within us, but we do have to make a decision. We do have to choose to draw upon that virtue in a situation requiring endurance. The best part for the person who actually is courageous is that it's second nature to them. Any situation that occurs to them, they will see things as a courageous person does, they will feel as a courageous person does, and they will act courageously without any thought because it's a disposition of their mind, that it's something that can't be changed. So here's the second quote because we do want to get into a little more detail here. The Stoics believe that courage, like all virtues, is a kind of knowledge. Let's see what Arius Didymus says. Courage is a knowledge of what is terrible and what is not terrible and what is neither. Now, that doesn't say much to us. We might wonder, well, what things are terrible? What things are not terrible? They don't tell us in a way that we would like. To answer this question of what we're talking about, like many questions we have about Stoicism, the answers will be found in other parts of Stoicism. That's because Stoicism is a very systematic and thorough philosophy. So let's think about what things are terrible and what things are not for the Stoics. Let's start with someone who wants to be courageous. Here's what we're going to tell you about the things that are terrible. The terrible things for the Stoics are what you do, the thoughts you have, and the acts you take. Any thought or action you take that is vicious, that is a terrible thing. You want to avoid that more than anything else, and even more than death. So if you're thinking of doing something unjust to another human being, you're thinking of doing something unkind, you are tempted to do something that is cowardly or imprudent, that is a terrible thing, and you should avoid all of those like the plague. Here are some things that, according to Stoicism, that are not terrible. Getting sick, getting a physical injury, including breaking a leg, getting thrown in jail, or yes, even dying. These are not really bad things according to Stoicism. And I want you to note here, and this goes for anything having to do with virtue, I get the idea, but even though I am doing all kinds of things, all kinds of practices to start to strongly believe such things, I don't know it. That's the difference between the person who is making progress towards courage and the person who is actually courageous. The courageous person will know in such a way that, oh, I'm about to get injured, but I am taking action to help someone out, and the injury is not a big deal. It's a dispreferred indifferent. My children, they're sick. They really need my help. I actually am aware it's likely I'm going to get sick too, but I know it's not a big deal. Now, interesting thing about the last scenario is that sometimes we do seem to have knowledge of what's terrible and what's not terrible, according to the Stoics. But the big difference between the average person, and we're all in that category, and the person who is a wise man or sage is for that person, it's second nature. They don't have to draw upon anything because they already see it's not a terrible thing to get sick. You want to come and arrest me? They see it's not a bad thing. So that is a huge difference, and that's why it is important to work and make progress towards becoming virtuous, which means becoming courageous. Now, if you want to learn what you need to do to develop the courage along the lines that the Stoics say it is, then I have a coaching program called High Performance Stoicism Coaching. So I give the information below for you to contact me. And if you do, we'll talk about what the procedure is, what kind of coaching it is. But aside from that, I'd really appreciate if you like, subscribe, or give a comment. I'm happy to answer it. We'll see you in the next video.